welcome to another movie review, and today I'm going to be talking about a film called Pokemon the Movie, The Power of Us. Now, with Pokemon, I used to watch it when I was a kid. Haven't obviously watched it kind of over the last couple of years until recently, well, quite some months ago, there was a film came out, Pokemon I Choose You, which is essentially kind of like a reboot of the film franchise. And altogether there's now been 21 Pokemon movies, and it has spanned over so many years, which is actually pretty awesome, and I'll get to that throughout this kind of video. But essentially, there's a lot of sub-stories that essentially go into the main story, but I'll try go through it more briefly, then introduce like a character into their sub-story and go from there. So essentially the film stars around a city called Fura City, and once a year they have something called a wind festival. Now, a legendary Pokemon, Lugia, essentially kind of brought about the city's power. So the city has windmills, and Lugia, with its special kind of legendary power, provided that wind to essentially power up the city and so forth. So they have a wind festival each year because apparently Lugia braces the city, and especially it kind of has like a special touch to the city once a year, essentially. So something happens in this film where that gets taken away, power gets shut off, there's a fire in the forest, and of course Ash and the gang have essentially got to save the day. Now, let's talk about Ash firstly. So Ash and Pikachu, of course, is back into this. You don't see that many more classic Pokemon in regards of Ash's, like, you know, Squirtle, Charmander, Bulbasaur, or the evolution ones like Charizard, Blastoise, Venusaur, that kind of thing. So you don't kind of see those. But of course Pikachu's there, and it's still awesome that this series franchise still stems from Ash and Pikachu from back in the day over like 20 years ago to now. And they're still the main focus of Pokemon, which is still awesome. Yeah, they've moved on and they've introduced new side characters or main characters, etc. But it's still great to have the original one there. So Ash and Pikachu, of course, attend the Wind Festival, and there they meet a couple of other side characters who get introduced in this film. One is called Risa. Now, she is essentially in Wind Festival for a brother who's in hospital, and she's there to catch him a Pokemon called Eevee, and it's still great again to see a kind of a classic Pokemon brought into this film. Now, that's how she essentially fits in, and there's a bit of a sub-story, and of course she helps out Ash towards the end. Now, another sub-story of this, which is probably the best part of this film if I'm being honest, is a character called Callahan. Now, he plays an uncle to his granddaughter called Kelly, and essentially he kind of tells big fibs to essentially look great in front of his granddaughter and be this kind of superhero for her. You know, he kind of says he has like a rare Pokemon, or he can do this, this and this. And he kind of does do that, but of course he's lying at the meantime, or he's getting help to do it to make himself look that better, and it all comes back. But essentially, the backstory of him and Kelly was absolutely fantastic. It was great to see that kind of emotional and human touch in there, to kind of show, like, you know, what parents or grandparents would do for the kids or grandkids to maybe become cooler or more relevant, or kind of like for someone to look up to as like a role model as well. So that was actually a pretty cool touch to the film, and the bond between Callahan and Sudowoodo was awesome. I really enjoyed that. It was definitely good comical laughs in regard to that kind of storyline as well. And of course Callahan comes into play towards the end to obviously help his granddaughter. Now, another sub-story, and yeah, there's a lot of sub-stories. Another one is Togan, who is like kind of like a timid researcher. Essentially, you know, he's a great researcher, but he kind of lacks confidence, and he kind of doubts himself and his work, essentially. But then the day, he's a great researcher, and he's one of the best that they've got, but he doesn't kind of realise that towards the end, when he kind of grows that confidence and actually speaks out and actually tries to help to save the day, which again is great, and it's definitely relatable in regards with, if you want to go and see that film, you know, there might be a time in your life, or maybe someone that you know who maybe doesn't have much confidence even now, or maybe didn't have but now does, and obviously, you know, they grow as a person because of that as well. So that was actually pretty cool and relatable in the film as well. There was another side story with an old woman called Harriet, and essentially she had a bit of a backstory where she had a Pokemon, something happened, and ever since she kind of doesn't like Pokemon, and of course she gets hounded by a couple of Pokemon and try to live in the house with her, and she's like, no. And at that part, it's actually pretty cool. And again, it's pretty cool to see another essentially classic Pokemon Machamp in there as well, so that was pretty cool as well. Then there's another side story of Margot, who is like the mayor's daughter, and she has kind of like another, again, sub-story, backstory. And I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing this Pokemon's name right, but it's Seriora or Seriora, something along those lines, where this is kind of like a curse Pokemon, or made up kind of curse anyway, in regards to a haunting tale of this town. And again, so essentially, why am I mentioning all these sub-stories? So these sub-stories all mix in to one at the end, and essentially all these characters come together, Ash, Pikachu, essentially kind of leading the way, and then, you know, these characters having different stories to then try save the day from this smoke that has essentially stopped the wind to power the city, and of course the fire that is essentially burning up the forest. Now, I did like it, don't get me wrong, I did enjoy the film, and there was certainly some good aspects to it. Again, the Callahan side story was awesome. The Torgan side story, where he was getting more confidence again, that was pretty good, and it was definitely relatable as well. Awesome seeing Ash and Pikachu. The old woman with Harriet, personally, again, there was some comic laughs, don't get me wrong, but that kind of sub-story, I think, didn't really need to be there, if I'm being honest. And yeah, by all means, there is a part where she does help out to save the day by powering up an old power plant, essentially. But I still didn't think that she kind of needed to be in the film. If they focused even more on the kind of the Callahan side story, that would have been more awesome. It was definitely more relatable and funny, and again, it was more of that human touch in there. Now, the biggest gripe I've got with this film, if I'm being honest with you, and I really wish I didn't, but it involves Team Rocket. Now, of course, Jesse, James, Meowth are still there. Awesome to see them, and again, just from going back to childhood, it's great to see kind of old characters and old Pokemon and the original ones there still in this kind of series and film franchise and film reboots, because there has been 21 Pokemon films, which I didn't even know, and this is the second film now getting a reboot in this kind of film franchise, because I think it did kind of go a bit all over the place after so long. And again, trying to not go into too many spoilers about this, but there's a part with Team Rocket where something happens, and I generally think they kind of just ignored that after it happened and kind of didn't address that again. But it's a big part in this film that actually happens, and again, it isn't addressed, which I was a bit, well, why isn't that not addressed, especially when, again, it's such a pivotal kind of part in this film and a big part in this movie, that it definitely should have been, or at least kind of like a nod to it. There isn't. I really don't know why, and I'd really love to know why that wasn't addressed. And again, one or two kind of side stories I generally think could have maybe been taken out or shortened a little bit and focused on other kind of side stories that, again, were more relatable, more of a human touch, and more you kind of get behind and be like, oh, that's a great moment, or why have they done this, or why have they done that, you know? But overall, my rating for this film is... yeah, so guys and girls, I really did enjoy this film. I would say go check it out in the cinema if you do get a chance. I know it is on a limited run, so if you do get that opportunity, that would be absolutely fantastic. It is a really enjoyable film. If you're a fan of the Pokemon series or any of the films, you'll definitely enjoy this one. It is cheesy, it is kind of predictable, but that is what Pokemon is and has been, even from being childhood, even up till now. But please subscribe to the channel if you already haven't. Please give this video a big thumbs up if you enjoy the content, and I really do appreciate the view. And please continue to tune in, as I will be doing more film, TV and kind of video game reviews as well. Until next time, this has been the Z Review, signing out.